They say INFPs love gently, softly, sacredly. But no one talks about what happens when that love stops feeling like warmth and starts feeling like obligation. Here's the quiet truth. INFPs don't stop loving. They just start disappearing. Stay till the end, because this is the moment where devotion becomes rebirth, and where the caretaker finally remembers she was meant to be the beloved too. Ever loved until you vanished? Picture this. She's the one who stays up late, listening till her chest feels hollow. She's the one who remembers your secrets, your fears, your storms, even when no one remembers hers. She calls it love. Everyone else calls it kindness. But look closer. You'll notice the way she smiles when she's tired. You'll notice how she nods, even when her soul is begging for silence. You'll notice her giving more than she ever receives, and convincing herself it's enough. Because for the INFP caretaker, love means healing, holding, softening every edge so others can breathe. But the cost? Her breath becomes the one that falters. She cooks emotional meals for everyone, but eats last. She carries the weight of unspoken hurts, but never drops her own. This is the kind of love that looks holy on the outside and feels heavy on the inside. And she whispers to herself, "It's okay, they need me." Until needing becomes her role, and her role becomes her identity. Here's where the shift happens. Subtle at first, then seismic. The warmth she once offered freely now feels like a contract she never signed. The tenderness she once poured effortlessly becomes a task, and then a duty, and then a burden. She still shows up, she still helps, she still holds, but her hands are trembling. There's a moment you'll see in her eyes, the flicker of someone who's giving out of habit, not out of heart. Because when the INFP reaches emotional fatigue, FI, introverted feeling, doesn't stop caring. It just stops shining. It hides. It folds inward. It whispers, "No one sees me." And TE, the inferior function, wakes up, not to empower, but to survive. To manage. To keep everything functional when her spirit is empty. She starts scheduling her love, tracking her emotional output, micromanaging her own heart like it's a project she can't afford to fail. This isn't devotion, it's exhaustion dressed as gentleness. Then comes the quiet fracture, not an explosion, not a dramatic goodbye, a moment. She's washing dishes, or folding clothes, or hearing someone say, "Can you just..." And something inside her collapses, silently. A realization that lands like cold water. Love can't survive where it's only needed, and never chosen. Her empathy becomes a cage. Her kindness becomes a script. Her silence becomes her only safe space. She stops offering her heart, not because she stopped loving, but because she stopped feeling loved. And there, in the quiet, something inside her breaks just enough to let a new truth slip through the cracks. Here's the turning point. Soft, but irreversible. She looks at her reflection one morning. Same eyes, same softness, same spirit made of reverence and fire. But this time, she sees the cost. She realizes, every time she gave without receiving, she shrank. Every time she rescued someone, She abandoned herself. Every time she accepted crumbs, she taught her heart it didn't deserve a feast. And she whispers, not loudly, but with the force of a soul relearning itself, I can love without losing myself. This is the moment the caretaker becomes the beloved. Not because someone else chose her, but because she chooses herself first. Fi rises, not as martyrdom, but as self-worth. Te softens, becoming boundary instead of armor. Ne stops dreaming of people's potential and starts imagining her own. The metamorphosis is quiet, but it is real. There comes a moment when the empath looks at their reflection and finally understands. Compassion was never meant to be self-erasure. Loving others was never meant to require disappearing. Presence wasn't meant to be purchased with pain. The one who once gave everything to be seen now learns that true love begins inward, because love was never meant to mean breaking. It was meant to mean walking beside, whole, and awake. Te becomes boundary. Fi becomes clarity. Si becomes memory without anchor. Ne becomes possibility, not illusion. This is integration, the moment the heart remembers itself. Maybe she never stopped loving. Maybe she never stopped caring. Maybe her tenderness was never the problem. The problem was believing that love meant exhaustion, that devotion meant silence, that kindness meant becoming invisible. But now she knows. Love isn't duty. Love isn't depletion. Love isn't disappearing. Love is something shared, chosen, reciprocal, alive. Maybe she doesn't need to tear the walls down. She just needs to open a window and let someone see her light, let one truth out. Because the INFP was never meant to burn alone. She was meant to glow with someone who keeps the warmth alive with her. If you've ever loved until you disappeared, write it below. I came back. Because naming your return is the first step to becoming the beloved again. Thank you for staying until the silence spoke. The next chapter of The Broken Dreamer is waiting, and it begins where the forgetting ends.